you want to see your own videos on the Geek Gaming YouTube channel, please go to the link in the description to submit your own video and possibly become part of the network we're trying to create here on YouTube. Join the community by going to tiny.cc/geeklootgaming and submit your form. Hello everybody, I'm glad you could join me where the new Taylor Not That Swift home is here on Geek Loot Gaming. Like I promised, here is an updated best graphics cards for the price video. My last one isn't too outdated, but it's outdated enough to warrant a new video. So let's get started. For around $110-ish, I think the best GPU you can get brand new is the R7 370. Now this is basically an R7 265 rebrand, however it's a little bit more efficient and it has a higher clock speed. Now I would also advise if you're spending as little as $100 on a GPU that you actually go and buy used from somewhere like Craigslist or eBay. Make sure you buy from a reputable seller so that if something goes wrong you could always send it back. I bought my HD 7850 for $60 on eBay and I had no problems with it at all. I also have seen HD 7950s, which is the equivalent of an R9 280, go for as cheap as $100 on eBay, which is absolutely crazy. So, if you only have a little bit of money to spend on a GPU, definitely buy used first. However, if you can't, then $110 could get you as far as the R7 370. I think that is the best graphics card for around $110-ish. Looking at PC Part Picker right now, the cheapest R7 370 available is $113.98. Moving on to the next price bracket, we have under $150. And filling that hole in the market is the GeForce GTX 950 2GB. Now, the notable thing about the GTX 950 is it kind of almost undermines the 960 in that it gives almost equivalent performance, just a few percent lower, except it costs a lot less. The cheapest GTX 950 available right now is $130 on PC Part Picker, and that is actually a really good deal. If you are trying to get a budget GPU, I would recommend stretching your legs a little bit for the GTX 950 because you're going to get pretty good performance out of it for the money. You're going to get almost GTX 960 level performance out of it while spending almost $50 less. And speaking of the GTX 960, under $200, the GTX 960 4GB card wins that price bracket. And you may be thinking, well, why? That's because the R9 280X, while it is a really good card, is actually beaten by the GTX 960 in a lot of titles. And the GTX 960 definitely fits under the $200 price bracket as the lowest one available, that is a 4GB model. The cheapest one is $190. Now, if you can find one for cheaper, I would definitely recommend an R9 280X because it can give almost identical performance. However, another reason I chose the GTX 960 is because it comes with an extra gigabyte of VRAM. And with newer games making use of higher textures and more incredible graphics, you're going to need that VRAM even at lower resolutions like 1080p. Moving on to the next price bracket, we have the best under $250 graphics card being awarded to the R9 380X, which is a 4GB card and is the spiritual successor to the 280X. Now, this card is kind of cool as in that it bridges a performance gap that Nvidia currently does not occupy. So it kind of gives performance in between the R9 380 and R9 390, which is good because before this graphics card was released, people would have to either spend $200 on a graphics card or $300, which is not a mild gap, by the way. However, coming in at around $220, the R9 380X is a pretty good choice for the price. However, if you can find another one available, the Radeon R9 290 4GB card is even a better performer than the 280X, and you might be able to find it cheaper in some places. The best graphics card for under $300 is probably going to be contended by a lot of people. It's going to be a little controversial, but I chose the Radeon R9 390 because objectively it's a better performer in more titles. Of course not in games like The Witcher 3 where Nvidia is definitely favored. The GTX 970 will definitely work out better for a title like that. However, in basically every other game, the R9 390 will perform better. Not to mention, this graphics card is actually cheaper most of the time if you look at a good retailer. Not to mention, it also comes with an extra 4GB of VRAM, or if you're a pessimist, an extra 4.5 gigs. The best graphics card for under $400 is the R9 390X. Now, the only reason this graphics card got this position as the best sub $400 graphics card is because the GTX 980 is just too much more expensive to warrant an award. The 390X performs just about as good as the 980 in a lot of titles, while being fairly cheaper. The 390X comes with 8GB of VRAM, so that's always a plus too. Now, the best graphics card for around $500 is the AMD Radeon R9 Fury, which actually performs fairly close to the GTX 980, but outperforms it in just about everything at around the same price. Now, the R9 Fury ships with 4GB of HBM memory, which is some super fast stuff compared to GDDR5, which makes it just better in a lot of games compared to the 980. Now, say your budget is around $600, should you go for the GTX 980 Ti or the Fury X? I chose the 980 Ti because while the Fury X may perform a little better in 4K some of the time, the 980 Ti just outperforms it in general the rest of the time. Not to mention it comes with an extra 2GB of VRAM, and it's actually cheaper. So I chose the 980 Ti for this price bracket. Now, the GTX 980 Ti is basically the highest end graphics card you can find, unless of course you go for the GTX Titan X. Now, you're probably not going to need a Titan X unless if you're doing some really intense video editing or work that your graphics card has to do. So, the only difference between the 980 Ti and the Titan X is the Titan X has a few more CUDA cores and an extra 6GB of VRAM. However, for gaming, that does not warrant the $400 price gap. So, I would stay away from the Titan X unless if you are doing some serious work for your GPU to have to handle. So thanks everybody for watching this video. If you like this list, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the Geek Gaming channel, the new permanent home for Taylor Not That Swift PC videos. This is Taylor Not That Swift of the Geek Gaming Network, signing out.